Okay, back in 2019, you may remember that Patricia Walsh's forecast for the time period of 2020 to 2024, she was spot on in so many areas because we've definitely been on a wild ride. It's seismic and it's one that's caused generational shifts. It began in March 2020 with a worldwide lockdown, and 2 years later continues to shatter most of the norms that we hold dear. This past New Year's Eve, P and I decided to take stock and compare what well-known British astrologers and psychics had to say about the world's astrological forecast and predictions for 2022 and into 2023. And what I'm going to share tonight is a summary of what they said. Now, no matter what I tell you tonight, I want you to remember this old saying: the stars impel, they do not compel. That means what these astrologers are saying is these are influences that can occur, but they don't have to. Human free will can make all of these predictions obsolete and never come into manifestation. Also, the predictions that they've made don't happen on the exact moment of a planet's movement in a chart. The subtle energetics begin slowly. They build like a wave. It crests and breaks. And in the case of these predictions, later updates with the astrologers indicate the activity they predicted will go on into 2024. Yes, you heard that right. Now, it's been eons since either one of us have studied astrology, so this is not meant to be an astrology chart with graphs. Instead, I'm going to highlight the main planetary influences that the astrologers mentioned and show how each planet relates to what they predicted for 2022. There are themes and qualities that were mentioned in all the readings that relate to each planet and how that planet's qualities govern the predictions. While the planets imply chaos, the other side of chaos is a grand awakening. So please keep in mind that as we go through these slides, chaos and peace march merrily along side by side. You'll see it as we go through them. All right, so here's the general makeup of each planet's energy influence. Pluto is both a destroyer and a creator. When it destroys something, something new is created or transformed. Its influence continues from the past 2 years, but its impact in 2022 is going to be huge and again will continue into 2024. Saturn is a planet that represents laws and rules and regulations, and it represents the past. The old order of top-down rules and regulations will be torn down. Its influence, which continues again from the past 2 years, becomes magnified in 2022. Translation of that is more of the same, but speeded up. Uranus is the planet of awakening, of change, and of personal freedom, and its changes come along like shock waves. Remember that word, shock waves. Mars is warrior energy, and its action, and it's a driving force. Jupiter is the planet of healing, the planet of good fortune, expansion, and miracles. And Neptune is a planet of higher ideals and of inherent spirituality. It rises up in salvation, restoring a higher vision into the chaos, and it brings qualities of compassion to bear. Okay, this chart gets your attention, I'm sure. The 2022 themes most mentioned by the astrologers were destruction and creation. They predicted the year would be a turbulent ride and very chaotic. Saturn's old order of rules and regulations will be torn down, and Mars, the planet of war and action, drives that destruction. It is going to affect all forms of governments and institutions. It will originate in the United States and will reverberate across the world. So the year can be summed up as one of revolution and revelation. The good news, out of all the destruction, changes will emerge, and those changes are good and they're long overdue. They will usher in a new order that will be established. And ultimately, Neptune's influence, this is fabulous, Neptune's influence will cause a collective healing where the spiritual ideals long buried in the dirt of drama will be reborn. But we have to get through the chaos first. So let's take a look at some of the specific predictions. The astrologers say, always look at what happened the last time any planet was in a chart in a specific sign, and you'll get a read on what might happen now. And it's a good model for us to follow. Remember that 2022 is a year of revolution and revelation. They interpreted that to mean that these planet alignments would lead to the fall of governments and leaders. And the biggest driver of these events is Pluto. The reason is Pluto returns to the US birth chart. This is a biggie. We're doing this presentation and meditation on February 11th, 2022, which is already an auspicious date. A few week or so ago, Anne Marie asked me, what are you going to do on 2/22/22? I can't make this stuff up, but I'll tell you, on that landmark date, Pluto makes its return to the US birth chart. Now, if you look at what happened the last time, the US birth chart began in 1776 when the colonists started a revolution. They rebelled against England and formed a new country and a government. With the US Pluto return, that potential again exists in 2022. And some of the predictions explicitly stated that there would be enormous upheaval in the US government, more so than what we've experienced the last 2 years. They also predicted that change would occur in economics and the financial systems, that the politics will be disrupted, and even potentially the Constitution of the United States could be threatened, along with the country's geographic makeup. They tied these predictions together through these planetary influences. Jupiter is the planet that rules trust and authority. Through Jupiter's influence, leaders who we thought were trustworthy would be found out and toppled. This includes those whose sexual crimes have been hidden and things that governments, especially in the US, did not want revealed, would be revealed. And the laws and rules that once were followed blindly are being ignored as regular citizens begin to write their own laws. Here are some cases in point, and today is only February 11th. In mid-January, the Queen stripped Prince Andrew of his title due to sexual misconduct. Pope Benedict, not Francis, this is the other guy who stepped down, was found by a government inquiry in Germany to be personally responsible for not dealing with pedophile priests and bishops. 2 days ago, he literally fell on his knees asking for forgiveness. Parliament has asked Prime Minister Boris Johnson to resign because of his irresponsible leadership and the Downing Street pandemic parties he's been throwing. UFO secrets, long cloaked, are coming to light. Videos of the ships from trusted Navy and commercial airline pilots show them flying alongside their aircraft or appearing and disappearing. Now, here's an institution. The US Supreme Court was once revered as one institution without bias, but it's reached a boiling point of partisan rulings to such a degree that Chief Justice John Roberts has been warning them that they must be above reproach and party politics in their deliberations. Vaccines and mask mandates are causing outright rebellion by regular people. The Canadian truckers have blocked the border crossing due to the vaccine mandates, which is causing a massive disruption in goods and services to both Canada and the US. NATO, which is an alliance that's been in place since World War II, is fracturing. Germany's new right-wing leader refuses to send troops or warnings to Russia over Ukraine. In our very own US Capitol, there's open rebellion on both sides. Renegade Democrats and renegade Republicans are not supporting the party line, but going off script with their own personal agendas. Cryptocurrency, a topic I do not understand, is based on someone's imagination and has been in free fall. This super secret and allegedly super safe Bitcoin was hacked and billions stolen, with its value has already plunged 20% in the last couple of weeks. This is what the PLUTO return looks like. Its repercussions begin in the US on February 22nd. They ramp up in July and reach a crescendo in October through December. Look down the road. That's the US midterm election cycle. Because of the influence the US has on all these upheavals, changes will ricochet across the world to other countries and leaders. One of their predictions that really caught my attention was when several of these European astrologers referred to another US civil war that could upend the US geography, its constitution, and perhaps cause a collapse in the government during the 2022 election cycle. One could certainly argue that the division in the country already looks like a psychological, geographical, and cultural civil war, and it's one that's been bubbling up for years, but became a blatant one in the January 6th assault on the US Capitol. Strangely, in the past 3 weeks, I've heard the term civil war in reference to the US used on NPR, on BBC, and on Al Jazeera as a more precise depiction of the state of this country. Will it happen? The planets say the influences are there. But if those who honor and respect democracy stand up to defend it, perhaps it will not become a physical civil war. Now, going back to the overall predictions, they called it destruction and new beginnings. Along with the planetary alignments that are driving the revolution and the revelation, the pandemic continues even as citizens around the world are just wary of the drudgery and the impact on their lives. There's already evidence that more dangerous viral variants will be unleashed on an exhausted population and planet. And there's not one country that's figured out how to make it go away, even with those that have 92% vaccination rates. So of course, citizens are worn out by the virus amid the conflicting instructions coming from Saturn again, previously trusted top-down health and science institutions like the CDC, NIH, WHO, scientists, and the doctors who support them. Are there contributing factors to this? I believe so. A warming planet is causing a significant reduction in biodiversity, which is an essential process of microorganisms, plants, and animals that supply air, water, and food, the three ingredients needed for life on Earth. On the climate front, the Arctic is melting down at an unprecedented rate. And in our lifetimes, and I know a lot of us are pushing the envelope, but in our lifetimes, we may see an ice-free North and South Pole. It's not the first time that's happened, as the tropical vegetation is being revealed as the ice caps melt. Mars's influence is going to be felt mid-year, and there's already an increase in the military saber rattling. If you look at the news, it's happening in the Ukraine, in Kazakhstan, in Hong Kong. China has Taipei in its sights and flexing its military muscle along the borders of Bhutan and Nepal, and in northern India and the South China Sea. With the US involved in its own woes like instability in an election year and a divided population, aggressive countries feel they have free rein, basically do what they want. Uranus is a planet of sudden change and shock waves and can trigger earthquakes and volcanoes. January 15th was a huge undersea explosion of a volcano that sent a tsunami across Tonga, where waves reached the US West Coast. Ash clouds covered the southern Pacific Islands, and the sonic boom from it was heard 10,000 miles away into Michigan. More than that, the National Weather Service released a video of the atmospheric pressure gauges around the planet, and it showed an unprecedented massive bombardment of pressure waves moving outward from the site of the volcano and rapidly crossing the ocean and touching every continent within minutes. The impact of the volcano is still being felt in the geological circles. I know this: we're not separated from our fragile, energetic alignment with the Earth. Case in point, Elon Musk launched 49 Starlink satellites on February 3rd. A few days later, a massive geothermal storm erupted on the sun and destroyed 40 of them, leaving the other 9 in limbo. And there's going to be much more of these storms happening. The sun's light, more of it is striking the Earth. There's been a 200% increase in solar flare ejections, which hit the Earth and arrive in 8 minutes. The geomagnetic shields that usually protect the planet are experiencing shock waves and are weakening. This is continuing to have a devastating effect on the climate, but also on human mental well-being. Though most of us never give a thought to that relationship, if the geomagnetic fields are unstable, we are too, because everything is made of light energy. And when more cosmic and photonic energy pours in, it affects every cell in our bodies, causing odd physical symptoms, unusual stresses, and it weakens our ability to deal with minor irritations, much less major ones. So now that you're all about to bury your heads under a blanket, hold on, because there really is some good news. I promise. With the influx of energy, more light is also coming in. And though our bodies are not yet able to handle the influx, eventually it will. This is the power of Neptune and Jupiter that will align later in the year and open humanity to conditions where divine consciousness and spiritual ideals will become more of the norm. So what do? Well, the 2022 changes are in progress, and everybody is going to be affected one way or another. If you don't believe me, think about how you've already been affected by the same Pluto-Saturn astrological configuration that began in 2020. If we acknowledge the changes I've just presented, then you have to ask a simple question. What planet am I living on? Because there are two distinct planets in existence right now. One is stable and peaceful. The other is chaotic and burning up. Am I living on the one that's going to be full of chaos and destruction? Am I holding any belief that it's all doom and gloom? Can I see the real truth behind the appearances? Will I observe the truth of what's occurring and simply ride the energetic waves coming into Earth and let the tumultuous energies float past me? Every person has a unique choice. What's it going to be? Remaining a victim or being hopeful? All is not hopeless. In April, Jupiter and Neptune come together in Pisces, jump-starting beneficial spiritual energies. When they come together, it births a sign of the mystic that softens the blows of the chaos. The last time these two planets appeared in Pisces was 166 years ago. So if you look back at what happened in the mid-1800s, it was a time when spirituality first blossomed in the US. The Theosophist Society came into being. The New Thought movement was born with people like Phineas Quimby, Mary Baker Eddy, Myrtle Fillmore of Unity, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Consciousness was turned to spiritual purposes and ideals. Even regular people got on board, using Ouija boards and doing seances to contact spirits. If that's what happened the last time these two planets aligned in Pisces, we can keep our hopes up for the same thing or better happening at the start of April. We're going to go through some dark stuff, but we will come out of this and we will see a rebirth of spirituality. Our unique spiritual beliefs will help us safely ride out the 2022 storm. We'll need to firmly anchor and ground ourselves in those spiritual beliefs, however, because those are the beliefs that fuel our practices and will keep us in a place of center and balance that will guide us through the next 2 years. Everybody who's listening on this call is part of a powerful community of like-minded individuals. You may feel you can't do anything, but we collectively can make changes happen. What we create in our minds on the mental level will be formed in the physical, because it only takes 1% of highly charged positive energy frequencies to overlay and move out 99% of slow moving energy. How do we do it? There's some really simple things. Seek out a place of peace and serenity as much as you're able to, and start the process that will increase your heart consciousness. Here's some quick ideas. Go outside and walk in a park or sit under a tree. Nature is the most effective antidote when in distress, and it eases feelings of despair. Play a drum and let those deep rhythms tone your lower chakras where you're grounded. We are light and sound waves, and this can stabilize yours. Tone a Tibetan or a crystal bowl and let those frequencies wash over you. They affect the higher chakras. A moment or two in those sounds while breathing slowly, peace will return to you. Do chanting. Chants and mantras align with your energy frequencies, and the rhythmic tones overlay the distressing ones while you're chanting. Resolve you'll not succumb to the external impressions, but will remain faithful and secure, and trust in your inner guidance and in this circle to sustain you. Whatever is unfolding, there's an unassailable truth behind everything that's happening in 2022. And each of us must examine the truth of it and make an enlightened decision about how the events will affect us. In that regard, Patricia and I consulted the I Ching about the changes that were predicted. And it said, there must be a change of heart. And that's only possible when we, now listen up now, when we accept the necessity of adversity. What? Why? Because adversity is the necessary catalyst that will create a new order. Peace comes when we set aside the pulls of the ego and of chaos and relax about what may come. The ego is only concerned about itself and self-preservation, not so much about wholeness that ultimately will emerge out of this chaos. So what do? It comes down to this, which was confirmed in several meditations, and it's called living in and from the heart. For any spiritually oriented believer, that's the most desirous place to be in the face of any chaos that might present itself. You have a choice on how you react to the chaos. Whatever consciousness you hold, be assured it will match a similar reality. If it's unstable, that's what you'll experience. If it's hopeful and centered in a compassionate heart, then that will sustain you in a place of peace when the chaos and turmoil appear. After pondering the astrological forecast on New Year's Eve, Patricia and I sat for a New Year's Day meditation. And while in meditation, I saw a silver ball of light hovering over my crown chakra. It descended very slowly through each of the 7 chakras, then slowly went back up the chakras. And when it reached the crown, it grew brighter in color. In its most brilliant light, it descended once more and came to rest in the heart center. I saw that the silver ball had absorbed the most positive qualities of each chakra on its little journey up and down. And it was now broadcasting each of the qualities of those chakras out through the heart center. Now, most of you know that the heart chakra is green in color. But as the silver ball of light began to glow with the fervor of the qualities of the chakras, the heart center itself began to slowly change from green to gold. When it was fully golden, feelings of hope filled every cell in my body. I realized we were not lost, but instead we had been found. And we're going to get through this year and every other year. We will weather the storm as guardians of light and hope, because that is the consciousness that this spiritual tribe holds. And we will courageously survive the chaos. We may get a bit battered and dusty on the trip, but we're going to come out of this as not as victims. I want to leave this slide up so you can see how the silver ball of light illuminated the heart chakra into gold. The image is a prelude to sharing this meditation that's filled with hope amid the darkness, and confirm for you that this light is never going to be extinguished. I trust it will be a meditation you can refer to throughout the year, or whenever you feel buffeted by the turmoil and chaos around you. Now, one more thing before we start the meditation. When I had this meditation, I saw about a dozen balls of light. The one that reacted to me, for me, was a silver ball of light. You may see a different color in the meditation, or not. Whatever it is, it is. Let it be that for you. Okay? So let's start the meditation. Get into a comfortable position where you can be still for the next 20 minutes or so. And close your eyes. And in your own time and at your own pace, take 3 deep cleansing breaths by breathing in the nose, holding it a moment, and then letting the breath out the nose. Do this 3 times, then breathe normally. Feel all the tension in your neck and in your shoulders easing. Let thoughts go from your mind. If they surface, just focus on the breath. Now imagine that a glowing ball of light is suspended over the top of your head. The ball may be small or large. Whatever size it is, it is. The ball begins to move. It descends slowly and easily into your crown chakra. And it follows the central channel along the spinal column. It moves from the crown chakra to the 3rd eye, continues to the throat chakra, down to the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and it becomes stationary in the root chakra. In the root chakra, the ball begins to gently vibrate. Pausing here, it absorbs the elements of that chakra, its qualities of groundedness, the solidity and the stability of the earth, survival and primal instincts, all the basic needs. A slight hue of red enters the ball of light. Filled with the traits of the root chakra, the light ball moves up to the sacral, where it again begins to gently vibrate. As it pauses there, it absorbs the elements of this chakra. These are qualities of creativity and free expression, the fluidity of water, the seat of feelings and emotions. A slight hue of orange enters the ball of light. Gliding up the central channel, the ball of light enters the solar plexus chakra, where it begins to vibrate. It absorbs the elements of this chakra, which is centered in personal strength, wisdom. It is the magnetic core of our ego and personality, the heat of fire. A slight hue of yellow enters the ball of light. It now enters the heart chakra, where it continues a gentle vibration. And it absorbs the elements of this chakra, which is a bridge between the lower and upper. In the movement of air, it connects with the quality of love. It exudes compassion, kindness, empathy, and forgiveness. A slight hue of green enters the ball of light. carried along through the spinal channel. The lighted ball enters the throat chakra. Here, it absorbs the qualities of communication and right speech. This is the center of truth and your personal voice. In the glowing spaciousness of the element of ether, it allows you to find your personal voice and speak fearlessly. A slight color of blue enters the ball of light. Rising up, the light ball enters the third eye, which is known as the spiritual eye. It absorbs and glows with the conditions of deep intuition and insight. From this chakra, creative imagination soars. Through the element of light, the qualities of inner awareness and spiritual awakening are activated. An indigo hue enters the ball of light. Now at the top of the spinal channel, the ball of light re-enters the crown chakra. This chakra is the seat of spiritual connection and personal transformation. It elevates personal consciousness to divine consciousness. In the elements of thought, it connects the individual to universal consciousness. The unity of all systems is energized and integrates the whole being. A subtle violet white light imbues the ball, as all lights from the chakras now glow within it. resplendent with all the colors of the chakras, the ball of light descends once more from the crown chakra down the channel and stops at the heart center. Here it glows, radiating all the qualities of the chakras, from the earth groundedness of the first to the spiritual divine consciousness of the seventh. The colors resident in each chakra now form a garden of flowers that surrounds the heart center. There are red geraniums of the root chakra, orange marigolds of the sacral, yellow daisies in the solar, pink roses of the heart chakra, blue morning glories weave from the throat chakra. There are purple hydrangeas of the third eye and white lilies of the crown chakra. In this beautiful garden of the heart center, there's a tiny heart that lives within it. That spiritual tiny heart, resident in the center of the heart center, begins to change from green to its higher octave of gold. It emits golden waves out of the heart center. It is the color of spiritual healing and inspiration, of achievement and of triumph. The now golden ball of light holds all the aspects of the chakras and continues to glow behind the golden heart, radiating all the qualities that each of us needs to live in and from the heart center. In this golden heart center, you will be grounded. You will be able to create from the heart center. Your will be heart-centered. You will heal with kindness and compassion from the heart center. You will speak the truth out of the heart center, and your insights will be guided by the heart center. Feel, imagine, sense, and be in that golden heart center now. Now let us begin to return from this meditation. In times of confusion, when truth and lies collide, when chaotic conditions threaten to disrupt your balance, come back to this golden heart center. Let's start to re-enter whatever physical space you occupy. Let your thoughts become conscious. Feel your body resting on the chair or the floor. Breathe deeply into your physical body. Begin to move your fingers and your hands. And take a deep breath, grounding yourself into the present.